The division rival Minnesota Vikings visit Lambeau Field on Sunday afternoon for a big NFC North matchup. Will the Packers prevail versus the Purple People Eaters? We will tell you on today's episode.
Yeah, I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Okay. Hey. Yeah. Ain't no errors, baby. It's a new era. I wake up early feeling rich like I'm Kesha.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Sounds Gouda. My name is Jordan Olson and I am your host for today's episode. I want to thank any new and returning listeners. We're always excited to be talking Packers football with you each and every week. We have new episodes on Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So if you haven't yet, make sure you've subscribed to our channel. Once we get to number 700, we're going to give away another hat. So if you want a chance to win the Sounds Gouda hat, all you have to do is be a public subscriber on our YouTube channel. So let's jump right into this matchup. We have the 4-6 Minnesota Vikings coming to Lambeau Field. The Packers are currently 6-point favorites as I record this on Friday night. So that line has moved a little bit. It was, I think it opened up at -7 originally. So some money is moving Minnesota's way, but I still think the Packers are pretty heavy favorites. And, they've struggled in that position. Last week, they were about in the same position. I think 6.5-point favorites versus New York. They covered depending on when you got your bet in, but they won that game by 7. So Minnesota Vikings, really no team in the NFL that I despise or have more hatred over than the Minnesota Vikings. Certainly in this division, the Lions have made things interesting recently. Can't really say that I even have a ton of malice for the Chicago Bears, but Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers, they've kind of owned the Bears for a little while. So hopefully that continues. But the Vikings have been pesky all of my life. They were 2-0 last year, so this is a little bit of a revenge game for the Green Bay Packers. They're going to need to win one, if not both of these matchups versus the Vikings to have a shot at this division and to secure a playoff berth. So all time, this rivalry is 66-60-3 in favor of the Packers. Since the Vikings came into the fold, I believe in the 60s, it's been a pretty close and competitive matchup. And especially if you grew up in Western Wisconsin like me, plenty of heat going back and forth over that Mississippi River. So, it's a great game, too. It features good coaching all around. I mean, you might not include Rich Bisaccia in that mix, but you got Kevin O'Connell versus Jeff Hafley. You got Matt LaFleur versus Brian Flores. And, for my money, those are 4 really, really good coaches. This is not the Vikings offense from 2024. We haven't really seen them really get back to that performance that they had last year. Finished the year 9th in points per game, 6th in passing offense. We know that Sam Darnold was really, really good on that team. 13th in yards per play overall, 12th in total yards per game. This was an upper half of the league offense last year. And they've got some pieces that could obviously scare you. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Aaron Jones was playing at a pretty high clip last year. So, yeah, this year the Vikings offense has not been as scary. They still have a lot of the same names. They still have Justin Jefferson, but they're 22nd in points per game, 27th in yards per game, 27th in EPA per play per game. Their offensive success rate has been 28th, 3rd in total passing yards. So there's a big advantage for the Packers defense in this game. And you've got essentially rookie JJ McCarthy, and he's in his 2nd year. He's benched a majority of the season with injury, right? But hasn't looked really great since he's come back from that injury. You have the videos of him noticeably frustrated and bothered last week after a couple interception performance. So we're getting the Minnesota Vikings and that young quarterback at a very interesting time. Like I said, and some of these key guys on that side of the ball, TJ Hawkinson, Aaron Jones, they look like they don't have quite the same juice. So And just aging players too. Harrison Smith on the defensive side of the ball has not been the same player this year. And you knew that was coming at some point in time. I thought it was coming like 3 years ago, but maybe that's catching up with them a little bit now too. Vikings are getting a few guys back in this game. Ryan Kelly and Jonathan Grenard. So that they may be a big shot in the arm for them. They haven't been able to run the ball well. They haven't been protecting JJ McCarthy well. So we'll see how Ryan Kelly does as he gets back into his first action since week 4. And Jonathan Grenard, he gave the Packers fits last year, gave the NFC fits. He's a good player. We'll see how healthy he is. But that certainly helps the Vikings run defense and pass rush. Just in general, too, I was hoping we get Jaden Reed back in this game, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute. I thought that would have been a huge matchup advantage. We're going to have to wait on that. But overall, I think if the Packers win the turnover battle and play a clean game, this is the Packers' game to win or the Packers' game to lose. Overall, when it's said and done, I think the Packers defense at home, the Packers defense has played really good at home this season. If they come to play, hold this Minnesota Vikings team to, 13, 16, 17 points, this Green Bay Packers team is going to get it done. So going to switch over to PFF, and we're going to look at a couple of the key matchups here. Starting on the Packers defensive side of the ball, this whole thing starts if we can give JJ McCarthy fits and pressure him. So, he's not been known to be the most mobile quarterback. That's never been a big part of his game. So I think if we can get after McCarthy, he's been making turnover-worthy plays. And if we can force an interception or two from him, force him to make some bad decisions, force a couple of 3-and-outs by generating pressure on JJ McCarthy, I think that's a huge matchup in this game. I expect them to test Ryan Kelly. Will Freeze has been mediocre so far, so if they can find a way to generate that internal pressure, and if LVN can go in this game and they can start to run some of those cheetah packages, get Micah Parsons coming up the middle, maybe have a chance to bring Edrin Cooper in the A gap, that's going to be huge in this matchup. Point number 2, shut down Justin Jefferson. Packers have been pretty good about that in their matchups against the Vikings. Justin Jefferson certainly got the best of the Packers like he has every other team. But if this Packers secondary and a plan put together by Jeff Hafley can shut down JJ Jefferson, I really like our odds. Jordan Addison has been scary at times. Over the last 5 games, he's only went over 50 yards once in his last 5 games. Also has 5 drops on the season, so I feel like if we're able to kind of keep him at bay as well and not let him be a game wrecker, then we're going to be fine. This Vikings offense has been turning over the ball a lot. So just really don't let them get into a running game and shorten the game like the Panthers did. Don't let Aaron Jones or Jordan Mason get going. Pressure JJ McCarthy and slow down Justin Jefferson. And I really think that's the Packers' keys to victory on the defensive side of the ball. Switching over to offense, I'm going to go with the Packers 11 personnel. Going to be a lot of that moving forward because Luke Musgrave does not look like he's up to the test. Looks like John Fitzpatrick is going to overtake his snaps there, and I'd imagine that Josh Whyle is going to get a lot more chances on some looks and see what his versatility looks like. I said this in the midweek episode when we did a little teaser for navigating the division, but this safety play of Minnesota has not been good. Harrison Smith, it looks like he's really kind of slowing down. Josh Metellus hasn't been good, so I really think that if they can get Matthew Golden, Christian Watson on this field together, or use them individually to stretch this defense. We've seen Jordan Love go to Christian Watson a couple of times deep and take some of those shots. So with the way that these safeties been playing, I expect them to keep challenging vertically, especially in this upcoming game. I think they can also pick on Byron Murphy Jr., Vikings just went out and gave him a pretty nice contract, but he's been allowing 11.1 yards per reception so far this season. That was going to be my big point with Jaden Reed. If you get him back out there, him in a matchup with Byron Murphy Jr., I think that he could have easily ate in his return being gone for so many weeks. Instead, I think they're going to have to see what they can do with Matthew Golden and Dontavian Wicks in the slot. I like maybe to put Matthew Golden in the slot a little bit more. You're using Christian Watson on the deep outside, kind of as your wide receiver. But I think you could stack Christian Watson and Matthew Golden on the same side of the field, and whoever gets matched up against Byron Murphy. If I were Jordan Love, I'd be looking that direction. And then we don't know what's going to happen with Josh Jacobs, but his status is really, really important to this game. Minnesota's been struggling against the run. They're 22nd against the run this season. They've also struggled to stop teams on 3rd and short. That's kind of been their kryptonite. So if Josh Jacobs is able and healthy enough to play in this game, I think that's a huge advantage in this matchup. If not, you're going to need to see Emmanuel Wilson and Chris Brooks kind of do what they can in that running game. It sounds like it's leaning towards Josh Jacobs playing. And if he's healthy enough to go, that's a big, big deal. We've been talking about this offensive line, getting the Vikings getting Jonathan Grenard back is huge. As I mentioned, Andrew Van Ginkel's pretty good. They're gonna have to work to keep those guys at bay. Aaron Banks had one of his best games of the season last year. He's got to build upon that. Sean Ryan needs to kind of continue to get comfortable in that center position as he auditions. I really do think that he's auditioning for, like a 3-year, $30 million contract and the opportunity to be the Packers starting center moving forward. It's all out there on the table for him if he performs well, because they don't have a current succession plan that looks really good. And Jordan Morgan has to continue to develop. So, mentioned most of the things from the injury report. We know that Nate Hobbs is still going to miss the game. One part of the injury report that really has me concerned is that Quay Walker is doubtful right now. If Quay Walker doesn't get to go on the defensive side of the ball, you got to insert Tyron Hopper and a lot more Isaiah McDuffie if you're playing base. Isaiah McDuffie's fine, but he's not Quay Walker by any means. So I think that that's a big underrated maybe loss for this week, and he's been a big impact player. He's been flying around and certainly would prevent the Vikings from getting that run game going and running downfield, smacking guys like Jordan Mason at the line of scrimmage and really rallying and tackling, right? So Vikings are getting healthy at this point in time. So they've been struggling. They need that. Really, the only guys questionable are Grenard and Kelly. I think they're probably going to play. They don't have too many key guys on the IR that they're not getting back. Carson Wentz went down. Jeff Okudah is not playing. He's on the IR. That'd certainly help out this Vikings secondary. But Aaron Jones, Christian Darrisaw, Will Freeze, they've been banged up, but they all look to be ready to go for this game. So thinking through score predictions, the line's at -6. I think the Packers cover that. I think this defense has played really well at home, and I have a hard time seeing the Vikings scoring more than 17 points in this game. That's the number that I'm going to give them. I think the Packers offense continues to make steps in the right direction, hopefully at least playing a clean game. And, I think that the Packers may try to force their hand in getting the running game going, which I think is going to be a little fundamentally flawed because Josh Jacobs probably isn't 100%, but they're looking at the same things that I'm talking to you about in today's episode. So the game probably gets shortened a little bit. Instead of there being 8 or 9 offensive possessions for the Packers, I could see there being like 7, and the Packers don't have that many true times to score. But I still think they can put up something like 27 points if they're not shooting themselves in the foot with drops and penalties. So that's what I'm going to go with. Packers win 27-17, and then I'll focus ahead on the biggest game remaining on our schedule, the game against the Detroit Lions, which will have a huge swing in whether the Packers have a chance in this division, and really how we feel about the Packers playoff odds moving forward. So that's all I got, folks. More great Packers content from Sounds Gouda every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. I'm still trying to mix some guests in there. So come back and check us out. And, as we said before, we really appreciate you listening. Make sure to share this with a friend, a family member, or another Packers friend or two. Thanksgiving's coming up. We'd be thankful if you'd spread the good word. So on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, comment. We try to be really good about commenting and interacting with you. So let us know what you think. You can connect with us on X. I'm at Olson Jord. My co-host and best friend who's been taking a little time off, Rob. He's at Sounds Gouda with 3 A's. So yeah, but until next time, Packers Nation, have a Gouda morning, a Gouda afternoon, and a Gouda night. Go Pack, go.